I'd recommend watching this one because the smiles are going to remain on our faces for somewhere between 40 minutes and an hour. I really don't know how long this is going to be. Isobel Gilligan, Arsenal women champions of Europe for the second time, the class of 2025, and we were there alongside each other in Lisbon to see it. How does that sound, firstly?
I just still can't get over it. I don't think it's quite sunk in yet. Um, an incredible weekend. We obviously did a bit of coverage before the game, sort of saying it was all a bit nervy in the press conference, and there was a lot of belief and happy to be here. And then I think on the day there was just a more of a vibe of actually this could happen, and then it did, and I can't get over it. It was an incredible day, an incredible atmosphere in the stadium, and an amazing match. Just yeah, what's just happened?
Where do you want to start? Do you want to start almost the final whistle? Talk me through 7 minutes of added time. Arsenal are 1-0 up. There's sort of this feeling of goodness me, this could happen. Um, Almost similar to what we had in Lyon for, a good sort of half an hour. Almost in Lyon, there was so much time of being in this state of what is unfolding in front of me. But really, almost the feeling was whatever happens now, almost you need to do it in a certain way to make sure you remember this for years and years to come. And once, I think I had that draft, the tweet drafted Arsenal women win the Champions League. I think maybe 4 minutes into injury time, I had that. And then the referee blew the whistle for a free kick at one point, maybe after 6.5 minutes. And the Arsenal fans cheered and we were all sort of laughing in the press box. And then 30 seconds later, that final whistle comes. How on earth were you feeling then? Because it was just surreal, wasn't it? And almost in your head, you're thinking, I need to work, but I need to take every single bit of these moments in.
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking over and seeing you drafting that tweet about Arsenal being champions of Europe, and I was going to tell you off because I was just going to say don't tempt fate because I just like I couldn't believe it. I said 7 minutes was. I mean, we were talking about it just before we said there's going to be a good chunk of added time here because I think Arsenal were trying to manage the game and they were going down and winning these fouls, and it meant that there was just going to be a bit of time to wait, and just knowing Barcelona, I didn't feel like I could fully believe it until that final whistle went because I thought they could just score in the kind of 6.5 minutes of extra time, and then we'd be going to extra time, and I think then that would have just been so unrelaxing. So I was just waiting for that whistle before I could finally let myself believe that it had actually happened. Um, and yeah, I was trying to finish my match report and stuff, but I'd written most of it beforehand, managed to just shut the laptop, and we did just sit and take it in because I think that was important. Obviously, great to get the content out there, but to be honest, most Arsenal fans probably weren't going to be reading it on the whistle that day because everyone else was taking it in as well. So it was definitely important once in a lifetime, or hopefully not, but you know, once in a while to sit there and witness that. So I think it was really important to shut the laptops and just look around the stadium and listen to the fans and watch the players' reaction. We were lucky to have a little monitor next to us that had the kind of what everyone else could see on the screens that were a bit further away from us. So you could see up close the players' emotions, and that was amazing. And that also had the countdown of the time, and I was just going, surely this is it. Surely they need to blow the whistle now. And it just kept not coming and not coming, and then that moment, and yeah, what a moment it was. I just remember seeing Leah and Kim and Leo Valti hugging on the floor, and then all the staff running on. It was just, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, the staff running on, definitely. I've been trying to watch some of it back, and I think the last 10 minutes, I think probably there was something in my eye, and by what got me, and I'm not a Coldplay fan at all, and there's almost a bit of a running joke amongst me and my friends. I can't stand Coldplay, but once Paradise came on, and I was just thinking actually for this one moment, I would just love to be in that away end. I would love to sort of be able to be in there and experience that joy, that sort of sea of red and white, surrounded by Barcelona fans. We've been surrounded by Barcelona fans all day, and once that song came on, and you were just looking over it, and it was just you're witnessing history. And then Beautiful Day come on by U2 comes on, and then I've gone at that point, and I look behind, and Tim has been gone for a while, just trying to, and we were all trying to take it all in. I was the same. I just, did a couple of videos and just shut my laptop and just sort of leant over the top of the press box and just looked out over to everything. And you sit and reflect, but you also try not to reflect. You try and just take in what's going on in front of you. But, you think back to when you started, you think back to your personal journey, you look at these players and at one point, I really want to do an article on almost all of these players' stories because you look at all of these players, even the ones who haven't featured, and what they've gone through. All of these players at some point over the last few years, and Renee Sleggers herself to get to this stage, the people behind the scenes who we interact with. We had Sophie and Tom from the Arsenal press team behind us. Dan was elsewhere, and they put in so much effort. They put in so much behind the scenes to drive this club to where it is now. And it's just the ultimate reward. And I think we all had something in our eye at full time watching it all unfold.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was the same with the Coldplay, and it was when they zoomed in on Renee Sleggers on the big screen, and she was having an emotional moment, and that was what got me because I just thought this is just what a season and what an achievement for her to have come in October and have made such a change to bring this Arsenal side through to become Champions League winners. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And it was just, yeah, amazing. I mean, we at the half time, we couldn't really move around too much in the press box, so we didn't really get to go and chat to everyone else like you might do at the Emirates because it was all quite tight. But we spoke to Sophie and Tom, and there was nerves. But I think once we realised that Arsenal had managed to hold off Barcelona for a whole half, and the defense was being so amazing that actually the belief was even bigger then because it was going, okay, we've done 45 minutes. We just need one moment to score a goal and hopefully not regret the chances missed in the first half and keep holding them off. And they did it so fantastically and the game plan was incredible. And yeah, I can't quite get over it. But as you said, I thought, we, at the start of the match, you said it feels like a bit like a Barcelona home game. There's a lot less Arsenal fans, but they seemed to come out of the woodwork
Mm,
when the
mm.
full-time whistle blew. And right in front of us, it appeared they were all Barcelona. But once the Barcelona fans had left, there was loads and loads of Arsenal fans left all around the stadium. So I think it was all a bit of a mix, and people were hiding in different zones. And then as soon as Arsenal won, it felt like the stadium was full of Arsenal fans. So yeah, incredible.
You mentioned Renee. Now, I had a comment on my LinkedIn yesterday from quite an old post from someone who's obviously seen what Renee's done and has basically been trying to reach out to her. And this was a comment from Ger van Rensch, if I've said that right. Renee, what a way to go from Eind to Highbury. Who could have thought that such a relatively shy girl who could make such a journey? I can still picture you sitting outside the window of my classroom, waiting to make a surprise entrance for your English presentation. You make us all proud. Enjoy your success. This was her old teacher who was commenting on my page, and he said I was her English teacher for 2 years, the fifth and sixth grade of secondary school. Can you tell her I admire her? I can't find a LinkedIn account with her name, and I don't have Facebook now. Once we finish recording this, I'm going to send a screenshot of that onto the Arsenal media team and make sure that finds its way onto Renee. And that, again, what it means to people, almost from just seeing Renee let her hair down, I guess, yesterday, having sort of followed her all season and she is just the most humble person. Her and Kim Little are the most humble people you can meet. Seeing her out there with her family celebrating, but that comment as well, these are people who are winning this. It's so much for the club, but the people, the stories they have. And Renee's, I just think, is remarkable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she's done well in other countries, but I guess in England, no one's seen her as a head coach before, and she was kind of thrown into the role when Jonas Isobel had to step down, and she yeah, and no one was really sure what was going to happen. Obviously, an amazing spell as interim manager, and then I mean, I don't think there was anyone who didn't want her to stay on. And then we got the news that she was staying on, and it was fantastic. There was a couple of shaky moments, a couple of losses where people started to say, "Oh, is she just the same as Jonas, just a different person?" But definitely not. I mean, even the way she's interacting with the players after the game, the way they're all hugging each other, they all are friends and a really cohesive unit of players who and staff who just work really well together. It seems to blend, it seems to flow, and that's translates really nicely over to the football pitch and the football that they play and the confidence that those players have. And I there's not really anything else that's changed other than a couple of players coming in here and there, other than Renee, that's made that difference because this Arsenal side wouldn't have been able to do this last year.
Mm.
But this year it was totally doable and they did it so convincingly. And I just, yeah, I mean, it's total credit to Renee Sleggers and also everyone else involved in her team. But she's at the helm and she deserves all the credit, even though she won't want to take it.
No, she won't. I wrote on Sunday morning at Lisbon Airport that she's never going to have to buy a beer in North London again. But I tell you what, she'll offer to buy around first. She will not. I'm sure she will not let anyone buy her a drink. And yeah, she sounded like Sean Dyche yesterday. It was so funny. I was sort of tuned into the celebrations before going on Sky News, and I was thinking, who the hell is speaking? Oh, it's Renee. I was going, and then obviously it became the Katie McCabe show, and I was live on TV while Katie McCabe was asking people, "What do we think of Tottenham?" And it's one of the greatest moments of my life because I was just there trying. I think that they cut off me. They weren't talking to me at that point, but I was just bursting out laughing because it was brilliant. Especially after the week Tottenham have had, or they think they have as well. It was just a nice little reminder, even though it's the men's team, the women's team. I think, well, Spurs women. I don't know how if it was directed at her, or I don't think Katie McCabe will know. I can't believe these players are joining up with international teams this week. I think it's absolutely hilarious, to be honest. And wonder what Kim Little will do. I think she'll be by the pool somewhere, a nice glass or something, and just very much pleased she's retired from international football. And someone tweeted yesterday, is you imagine if you're Mariona and Laia Cadena going into your Spain camp where most of your teammates are Barcelona players and your former Barcelona teammates as well. I mean, it's mad to think they've got to play more football this week.
I know, I can't quite believe it. They're sort of all playing on Friday and most of them will probably be expected to start. I don't know. I mean, in England, there's a few other players who haven't played for a while that might be able to step in, but it's just they're all really important games. It's not like they're international friendlies. These players have got to be ready to go. I'm especially concerned for Katie McCabe's hangover because I think she's been going, well, rightly so. She's been going at the celebrations for a few days, and she kept saying in the mix zone after the match, "Yeah, I'll definitely be out in Turkey for the match against Turkey. I'll be there. Yeah, no worries." Like, but yeah, I think it'll take her a couple of days to be ready to play a full 90 minutes of football. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, some of them already on a flight to Australia. Daphne van Domselaar arriving at Netherlands camp yesterday evening, so straight from those celebrations in London. But they're professional footballers. That's what they love to do, and that's what they do. So Champions League winners or not, but yeah, maybe a bit awkward for Mariona and Dina. I know Mariona was draped in a Catalan flag during the celebrations, which I know a few people were commenting on Twitter because obviously that's a bit of a nod to Barcelona. But she won, her team won on the day, and she's now won 4 Champions Leagues. That's an incredible player to have at Arsenal.
What a reception for Mariona from the Barcelona fans as well. I thought that was really classy. And you know what? I really like the amount of Barcelona fans who only left after Arsenal lifted up the trophy. I thought it was a real nice touch for those actually who've watched this Barca side. I mean, they did lose to Leon a few seasons ago, but they are serial winners. They're used to watching them win everything, and they still have a domestic cup final, I think, to play for after the final. But I just watched Aitana's interview as well. She was outstanding, wasn't she? I mean, a few Barcelona players went missing a little bit on the day, but she was just terrifying to watch from an Arsenal perspective. But and even the Barca fans who were out in Lisbon after sort of walking down Pink Street, surrounded by those in red and white, and getting some of the chants, and they all took it very well and sort of said fair play to Arsenal. And I've been, talking to Spanish journalists, and they said the reaction in Spain is very much a critical one. They're not happy whatsoever. They're, angry with Pere Romeu. And I mean, this isn't a Barcelona podcast, of course, but my take on them is they were waiting for an Aitana, an Alexia, a Payor, a Pina to just step up and score a wonder goal. That's what it felt like for a lot of the time. It's going to give the ball to someone, they're going to beat three players, they're going to find the top corner. And look, a lot of the time that approach can work, but I don't think Barcelona played as a team. They know they've got these superstars, and some of them, like I say, Aitana, were outstanding. But then there are these young talents who are maybe left on the bench and weren't trusted to come on. By Pere Romeo, only made three of the five substitutions. He had players like Sidney Shirtin Vicky Lopez on the bench. He could have called upon. I know it's hard to take players off when your starting team is that good, but Ona Batiev, she had sort of two or three shots from about 30, 40 yards. And I think that just summed it up for Barcelona. We knew Arsenal had to be perfect. We knew Barcelona had to have an off day. Both of those happened.
I know, and that's a really great example of everything just coming together and the stars aligning, and it did for Arsenal, and that's amazing. But yeah, as you said, I think they just didn't work well as a unit. It just didn't look cohesive on the day, and Arsenal did, and especially Arsenal's back line, and they were able to stop these wonder players coming in and doing what they're probably used to being able to do, especially in their domestic football. They can score from all over the pitch. They've had some incredible score lines all season and every year before that, but I think that Arsenal's back line, they were putting everything to stop those balls coming anywhere near the goal. They were defending with their bodies, kind of legs, all different angles, slide tackles, the whole lot. I sort of Leah Williamson just taking the ball off the players very nearly in front of goal and being able to not just clear it and out for a corner or anything, but actually just dribble it round and away, just so controlled and so amazing to watch. Very skillful, kind of reticent of what she was like in the 2022 Euros, just excellent with her feet, as she is well known. But game of her life, Steph Catley coming in, some very, very important blocks from her as well. It was just a great performance all round.
Yeah, defensively, I think I said to you before, if Arsenal win, we're going to laugh at these Brighton and Villa games for years, aren't we? We're going to look back at those two scores and go, those are the two funniest results in Arsenal's history. And I think as much as there's bits that Renee will want to learn from those games, as she told me already, she said after the Villa game, her head was already spinning when I chatted to her and said, we can't let this happen in future. But I mean, conceding all of those goals against Manchester United, with all due respect, Brighton, Villa, again, with all due respect, and then keeping a clean sheet against Barcelona is very, very funny and almost sums up Arsenal this season. McCabe, Catley, Williamson, Fox, Van Domselaar, Caldente, Little, Ford, Marnham, Kelly, Russo. That is the starting 11 that won the Champions League. And actually, as much as we need an overhaul, as much as this squad needs improvement, that is a very, very good team and a team that's going to go down in Arsenal history. But the difference makers on the night came from the bench. Beth Mead and Stina Blackstenius, not two of Arsenal's outstanding players this season. Not to say they haven't been good, not to say they haven't made impacts, but these, I mean, I would say an inspired sub from Renee Sleggers, but often this is almost a pre-planned sub. But the way it maybe wasn't working out for Alessia Russo and the way Stina Blackstenius stretches the Barcelona defence and Beth Mead, a big game player, maybe it was a moment of genius. And in hindsight, you know what? We'll give it to Renee.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they came on and they knew what job they had to do and they executed it perfectly. Just 7 minutes after coming on, they linked up together to score that goal that won the Champions League. And you just can't say fairer than that. It wasn't working out for Russo, as you said. She was unable to make those runs that she's so good at. She was doing good work off the ball, but she just couldn't get in behind the Barcelona defence, and that's what we needed. And Stina was able to come on and use her physicality and her pace, which she has. And we haven't seen a lot of her this season, and she hasn't maybe been favoured to play many games at all. But she's come on and she's kind of put in a performance of Stina Blackstenius that people might remember from from the last few seasons, scoring a goal in a cup final is what she does best, and she's done it again. Stretching the defence, as you said, getting him behind and receiving that pass from Beth Mead, which was brilliant. I think a lot of people thought that she should have shot, or she looked like she was going to shoot from there, but she saw Blackstenius free in front of the goal and was able to get that ball through to her, and Blackstenius weighted the shot perfectly. I think she actually managed to meg one of the Barcelona
Mm.
defenders and put a little bit of lift on it straight into the corner, and Catacol couldn't do anything about it. Amazing goal from Stina.
I mean, what? a ridiculous career she's had. I mean, she played with Renee Sleggers for one. That's barely been spoken about. That's a Champions League winning combination now. Akers and Scott Sleggers, sorry, and Blackstenius, they played together at Linköping. She scored the winning goal in two of Arsenal's cup final wins and scored in all three of them in the last few years, the two League Cup, the Champions League wins. She can be so frustrating to watch week in, week out. I moan about it when she comes off the bench because it means Russo gets dropped into the 10, as was the case against Barcelona, of course. But I mean, it's absolutely incredible, isn't it? A record of scoring in these big games, and I mean Manchester City know that as well. There are certain occasions where she just goes, you know what, I might miss five chances, but I'm bloody well going to score one.
Yeah, exactly. And I think she's had a lot of backlash this season for all the time she's been offside. And she has been offside. So people are going to say something about it, which they haven't. And even the media afterwards asked her, what did you think of your goal? And she even mentioned her kind of record of not managing to stay on side. But you could see the Barcelona players, they were appealing for an offside before Blackstenius had even taken the shot. And I don't know whether that was because they looked at her or they thought it was offside, but they had their hands up. Katakol had her hand up before she even tried to make the save after Stina got the shot off. They assumed it was going to be called offside, and it wasn't, and that was a huge lapse in judgment from them because you've got to play to the whistle and you've got to try and stop something happening before it was a crazy moment in a Champions League final to not defend because you think it's going to be offside.
Mm.
And luckily for Arsenal and for Blackstenius, it was onside. It was the perfect goal, and yeah, incredible.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There was almost a moment of switching off, and what Arsenal did really well was managing the spell after the first half goal was disallowed. It did look offside when Mon and raced in behind, and Arsenal had those chances first half as well, didn't they? The little one, I think it was, that was blasted over the bar. Kelly had a volley over at the back post. Ford had a header wide at the back post, and a lot of the joy for Arsenal came down the wings. And I think what was really important about that in the first half is it meant that Arsenal's defence, for all the defending they had to do, they were able to rest. They were able to get that respite. Once the wingers got up the pitch, they carried the ball so high and pulled the rest of the team forward. And actually, in the 28-degree heat, they then took that pressure off the defence. The chances were coming away, and actually, Barcelona realised there's a real game on here. And also, another point, Arsenal's physicality straight out of the blocks that also really took the game to Barcelona and ruffled some feathers.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually think those Barcelona's players weren't prepared for what Arsenal was going to bring to that match. I think all of the chat in the press conference the day before and in the media, from everyone was that Arsenal were the underdogs, and that's fine. We accept that, and but they've managed to win it, but that's fine. But I think the Barcelona players sort of just assumed that they'd win it, almost just a little bit too confident. And I think it was the same with the fans. They just all seemed to think, well, they'll get the job done. It's Arsenal. They dismantled Chelsea, who have dismantled Arsenal this season. So I think they just probably assumed, yeah, we'll be absolutely fine. Just another day out of Barcelona winning something. But Arsenal really, really took it to them. And that was clear within the first 10 minutes that this wasn't going to be a one-sided game like perhaps people had expected. And I think that was really important that they, from the off, came out and showed Barcelona, no, we're here, we can beat you, and we're going to make this difficult for the full 90 minutes. And they did. And then they managed to win with a moment of greatness, and they managed to, keep a clean sheet, which was incredible. I'm sure we'll talk about Daphne van Domselaar and her performance as well. But yeah, I think Barcelona might have just not quite realised, they might have underestimated Arsenal and their potential.
Yeah, and Barcelona definitely having an off day as well, and I'm sure there's better analysis that the Spanish media can provide. But yeah, Joe and Laporta, I still haven't been able to verify those quotes about how confident they were, but certainly some of the Barcelona fans who've been commenting on our YouTube page, as much as they were looking forward to seeing Mariona, they weren't expecting to be on this side of the result, that's for sure. Arsenal secure qualification straight into next season's Champions League, so no mini tournaments. That was already sorted, but no qualification whatsoever, which means more time in Ibiza, I'm sure, for many of these players after this, what is a tournament summer. Um, I don't really want to look too long term, too into the future. I feel like we've got the whole summer to do that, and the podcast maybe over the next few weeks. I'd love next week to be a sort of a Q&A and give people the opportunity to get in touch. Daisy also sounds like Sean Dyche, which is why she's not on it today. She's been out partying. So unless there's anything more you want to touch on from Lisbon, actually there is, because we had that metro journey, didn't we, with the dad and daughter who are from the same hometown as you. And I tell you what got to me, that obviously absolute jubilation, but when you said I've interviewed Katie McCabe and the look on her face, this youngster's face, when you said just interviewed Katie McCabe, that is going to stay with me for a long time, because just, there were thousands of Arsenal fans out there, but just to speak to a couple after such a special moment and almost be reminded of how privileged we are to do what we do on a night like that. Not that we needed the reminder, but that really hit home with me, and has definitely stayed with me. Just her face when you were sort of having that chat, I just thought it was lovely.
Yeah, that was lovely. We were kind of all trying to work out which way to go on the metro together, and we ended up getting chatting and asking where they were from, and they were from where I'd grown up, and then might be moving to where I'm at uni. So it was just a really nice conversation, and they were very interested in the Guna. I think you showed them the first print edition, which was great, really lovely, and yeah. I mean, so sweet. I showed her the video from the mix zone of the players dancing through, and that I'd just spoken to Katie McCabe, and that was just lovely. Even I feel so grateful, and I can't believe that within a season of working in football, I've ended up covering a Champions League final. I mean, that's obviously props to Arsenal getting through, because we wouldn't have been there otherwise. But just an incredible, incredible year, and so lucky to have been there for so many of these amazing games. But yeah, that was a really, really nice reminder to speak to them afterwards.
Yeah, should have done 6 years with me watching Hitchin Town battle relegation first. You got to earn your stripes properly. Mind you, we had an FA Cup run in my first season. I'll never forget that. But yeah, it's not always this easy.
No.
But yeah, no, you said to me after, didn't you? Your first article for the Gooner was previewing the Häcken second leg, when Arsenal were trying to stay in the Champions League when they were trying to reach the group stage, and now they've won the whole thing. So neither of us can make the trophy celebrations yesterday. Like I say, if we can get Daisy on when she's recovered next week. I mean, it looked like a great time, didn't it? And as they were saying to me on Sky, a real sign of how far women's football has come, that within a couple of days you can get this massive group of people together in North London outside the Emirates Stadium, and Katie McCabe, the ringleader. Who else?
I know. I don't think we could have. I don't think anyone would have expected anyone else to have taken the microphone like that. And she looked like she was absolutely loving it. It was a bridge too far for me to get down there. After only getting back in at 2 a.m. the night before into Edinburgh, I just couldn't quite work it out. But it did look absolutely amazing. Susie was there as well, taking some brilliant photos, which I love. Just every single video that came out of it, I was loving on my journey home on Twitter and TikTok, just looking through, and I felt like I was there with the amount of coverage that there was. But yeah, just absolutely amazing to be able to get that many fans to the Emirates within. People
Mm,
had come straight from the airport from landing from Lisbon that morning, and I think maybe they thought it was more for the people that hadn't been in Lisbon,
mm.
but it was a real mix, and it was just absolutely ridiculous to see that massive crowd standing outside the Emirates, and all a sea of red, and the players looked like they were having an amazing time. It was exactly what they deserved, and yeah, they've won the Champions League. You've got to have a celebration. If you don't celebrate then what's the point?
Yeah, I feel like the fans on Pink Street, there was this sort of unbridled joy in that they didn't know how to celebrate, that we haven't been here before, that celebrating, Conti Cup is brilliant, but the whole Champions League in one of the best cities in Europe, in lovely weather, in a great location, as I say, to do it against Barcelona, to do it with a manager who, and again, I don't want to draw criticisms of Jonas Eidevall, but people feel like they have this connection to Renee Sleggers that they don't with Jonas Eidevall. I think, even when he was winning those trophies, I just think there is that extra personal touch, there is that feeling, there is that empathy, and that's from the manager to the players, and I think that then translates from the manager onto the fans as well. And I think she is such a reason why so many people feel emotionally connected. And I think everyone in this community have their own journeys, their own struggles, their own good days, their own bad days, and just for all of them going back to work today, knowing their team are champions of Europe, and even there'll be people who they'll go with, and I know people who don't know anything about women's football, but know how massive an achievement that this is, know what Arsenal have been able to pull off, and it's just, look, Renee said, I'm so excited for the future. This team have so much more to give. It's come so early on in her tenure that it only means going forward that more success should now come to Arsenal.
I'm 100%, and I think that it was touched on a bit. I rewatched the coverage, the TV coverage of the match when I got home yesterday because I just wanted to see it from a different perspective and hear all the interviews post match. And obviously they were focusing on the huge achievement, but they did slightly reference next season and how this result just shows what this Arsenal team are capable of. And I think everyone knew we've got world class players. It's a team stacked full of talent, but have just struggled to get a couple of the key results this season. But now that we've seen them beat Barcelona, who are on paper the best team in the world, and they are serial winners, as you said, I think it just means that going into the WSL, the domestic trophies, and back into the Champions League next season, that this Arsenal side are capable of winning every single one of those and winning a quadruple. Because if you can beat Barcelona, and I know, sure, maybe they had an off day, Arsenal had a great day, it doesn't matter, you've still beaten them. We can beat Chelsea, can keep beating Manchester United, Manchester City. There's just so much potential, and I think that it'll be amazing to see next season if riding off the back of this success that maybe more silverware can be brought back to North London because I think it's totally possible.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about with that regard, and we will do. But Arsenal, they have to, not say obviously go and defend the Champions League, but winning the WSL should become a lot more realistic now. And I think a massive part of that is going to be in the transfer market, as we talked about almost straight after. Players want to come to a team that's won the Champions League, and Arsenal have won the Champions League, and I think it offers so much in the way of recruitment. And yeah, it's going to be a really interesting summer. I still think it's a massive summer for Renee Sleggers and the transfer market. I still think there's a lot of probably big decisions that need to be made, and big players that need to come in, the management of young players we've spoken about as well. But I think we all know the right person is at the wheel. There is just no denying that at all from anybody, and that is so important. Where do you want to finish? Any final comments for any of these players, any of these fans, and just what it means?
I was just sort of thinking about Mariona there for a second because obviously we got her in the last summer window, and I think just to see them having those celebrations yesterday, and I know when Barcelona have won, they have celebrations on that balcony, and it's a similar kind of vibe to what was happening at the Emirates yesterday. But I think that also attracts players in the summer. That's got to just to see the amazing fan support that's been home and away across Europe, across England, rainy evenings, freezing cold, boiling hot, everywhere. I think that's also got to help with getting these people in the summer because who wouldn't want to play for a club like that, Arsenal? You've got to say pretty much the biggest in women's football now, especially after that result at the weekend. And it's just, yeah, I'm so excited to see where this can go next year. And I still don't think that the Champions League has sunk in, and I'm hoping it will at some point. Or maybe I don't want it to sink in, but yeah, incredible.
Yeah, Chelsea have brought in multiple Champions League winners and a Champions League winning manager and didn't win it. Arsenal have basically brought in two Champions League winners. One has played much more of a big role than the other, and their second assistant coach and have won the Champions League in the space of a few months. I mean, maybe it's that easy. Renee Sleggers is making a lot of it look easy, and we tip our hats to her. We'll be back next week. We will have a bit more analysis, as I say, about what it means moving forward, and I'd love to open up a Q&A as well. But Izzy, I don't think it's going to sink in. I just don't. I don't know how it's going to sink in. Like I say, we haven't been here before. There are no plans for how this sinks in. Our bodies don't know how this all works. But these next few weeks now, I mean, you just walk on cloud nine, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the same as the Euros win in 2022. I still watch that documentary that the BBC made of them winning, the Lionesses winning the Euros, and I still get emotional and I still get goosebumps every time I watch it. And I think, and it's been 3 years since that happened. I think this will be exactly the same, because you can't beat your team winning the biggest prize in Europe. And yeah, I'm hoping that the novelty doesn't ever wear off.
No, it's just yeah, walking along with that in the back pocket. And I am going to be buying merchandise, waving my flag that I picked up next to a bin in Lisbon at 1 in the morning or whatever it was, and that's going to be staying with me for long. We're on holiday at the moment, and my gran has sort of hung it up, pride of place in the living room in this holiday home in Wales to make sure that everyone is here knows, and hung up my accreditation pass next to it as well. That I'm keeping for a long time. The program I'm keeping for a long time, and the memories, the vivid, vivid memories. The photos, Susie's photos that I've got about 400 I had to sort through and edit. And normally I sort of put these off, put this job off, and then moan about it and go, God, I've got so many to do, and I'm going to enjoy every minute. I'm going to listen to all the podcasts. I'm going to watch everything back. Because for all of the long days, for all of the defeats, for all of the difficult games, and all of the hard work that we all put in as a Guna fanzine team and as a fan base, this is what it's for. And we seem to have discovered what it's for. And I think, yeah, we don't need to tell people who are listening to enjoy it because they will be. And yeah, any advice for a hangover, Izzy? I guess there'll still be some today and probably for a few more weeks. For me, it's about a nice sugary cup of tea, a fry up, and then a bit later a Diet Coke normally does the treat.
Yeah, it's all about the Coke Zeros for me, and I would say just watching the Champions League final back should sort you out as well.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good decision. And yeah, go and spend some money on whatever is going to help you remember it as well. For me, there's a t-shirt, and I also saw I got tagged in like a Sabutio style poster of the starting 11 and all the subs. I reposted it earlier. Go onto my Twitter, and I think it was about 20 quid, and that's also just going to be taking my money and being pride of place somewhere. Izzy, we're going to run out of time. So thank you again for all of your efforts this season, and great to share that with you on Saturday and the entire weekend.
Yeah, thank you, and well done to you too. Incredible efforts, and what a match. So, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Arsenal are champions of Europe.